On this episode of Patrol Tactical, we talk about how to apply this on this. Hey guys, this is Dave with Patrol Tactical. In this episode, we're talking about the proper lubrication for your modern sporting rifle, AR15 platform rifle, M4, or whatever name you want to call it. Because in reality, they all lubricate pretty much the same way, both direct impingement and piston. And we're going to talk about how to lube both of them. Before we do that, we want to make sure we're following all good firearm safety rules, which number one is make sure your workspace is clear of all ammunition and magazines. And it's obvious neither of these rifles have a magazine. We're going to perform our safety check, which is lock the bolt back to the rear, check the magazine well, the loading area and chamber, look, make sure there's no ammunition in there, look away and do it again, look. We're going to repeat that for our other rifle. Look away, look. Now we have verified our work surface is safe and clear, as well as our firearms. So we're going to field strip these and we'll be right back. If you have any questions on how to field strip a modern sporting rifle, make sure you check out our other video. The link will be in the description below. Now we have our rifle field stripped into the major components, which is the upper receiver assembly, lower receiver assembly, bolt carrier group, and charging handle. Now to lubricate it, we really don't need to take it down any further than this. So the upper receiver, we don't need to apply any lubrication to on a DI gun. On a piston gun, I'll show you where, but I'm just gonna set this aside for now. The lower receiver group is really simple. What I'm gonna do, just so you guys can see better at home, is I'll put the gun on fire, hold the hammer, press the trigger, and slowly release that. But inside, you can see the hammer spring coils and the trigger spring coils. Now, those are kind of a landmark or a reference point, because right near those coils is a pin that runs this way and this way. You can see the edge of those pins right here and here. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply a drop of oil on the outside of those coil springs so it gets to the pin and it lubricates the pivot point. So we're going to apply a drop right here, right there, and right there. Additionally, in the lower receiver group, I like to lubricate the sear engagement surface so that the trigger and hammer actually engage with. And that's going to make your trigger pull just a little bit nice and smoother than if it would be if it was dry and gritty. That's kind of some of the complaint for the gritty. So to lubricate that, we're going to lubricate the surface right down there. And you can see actually the shiny point. And it's just going to take a small drop of oil there. So that's where we lubricate on the lower receiver. On the bolt carrier group, I'm actually going to use the paint marker so you guys can see exactly where we will lube. So you have these bearing surfaces here, and here, and we're going to lubricate those. So we'll put a nice amount of lubrication all along there, here, there, and there. So that's where we're going to start. We are also going to lubricate the bolt shaft right here because the bolt will go in and out like that. This square pin right there is called the cam pin, and as you can see, as the bolt moves back and forth, there's a camming action. So we want to make sure we lubricate inside there, and it's tough to see with the marker, but we want to lubricate in there so that that pin is lubricated as it goes back and forth. Additionally, I put a small drop on each one of the bolt lugs. All the way around. And last, we're going to compress the bolt slightly. So in these exhaust ports right here, you can actually see the silver gas rings. And we're going to put a good sized drop inside each one of those ports right there. So that's where we lubricate on the bolt carrier group. The charging handle, I just lubricate all along these surfaces here. And as you get your charging handles, take them out after some use, you'll definitely see the wear, but just lubricate all over the exterior portion of that. Now there is one more spot that we would lubricate on a piston gun, and that's in the upper receiver, and I'll show you that in a second. But just so I can show you guys the differences with the carrier, we're going to lubricate the same spots as the DI carrier, except for on the piston carrier, you'll notice that there is no exhaust ports, and likewise then inside there's no gas rings, so we don't have to worry about that. But we're still going to lubricate the bearing surfaces, we're still going to lubricate the cam pin area, we're still going to lubricate the bolt and the bolt lugs. The other area that you could lubricate on a piston carrier is the skis or surfaces right there. And that is in a part that will engage the receiver extension, so there can be a little bit of friction, so you can certainly add some lubrication there. On the upper receiver of the piston gun, you can take out the piston components, and most of them will come out somehow different for each manufacturer. But one of the things I love about the Huldra that uses the Adams Arms piston system is that you can take it apart without any tools, and it works out really, really slick. So we have the gas plug and the drive rod. Now, you can take a small amount of lubrication and smear it on the plug and drive rod. The reality is, as soon as you start shooting, that'll probably burn off. No matter what lubrication you're using, it's really hot there. So this is kind of just to protect against corrosive prevention, if you will, or just storage protection. It also may make cleaning a little bit easier. So you can take a small drop and lubricate it on these components and then reassemble. The other area is actually where the drive rod engages the upper receiver. So where that goes back and forth on the inside of the upper receiver. So on the inside of the upper, you can see the drive rod right in there, and there's a small surface right there, and that is a great area that we could take our needle oiler and just apply. And I can't see this, so I'm going to have to tilt it a little bit, but we can take the needle oiler there and just apply a small drop of lubrication. And as that drive rod goes back and forth, that little bit of lubrication can be applied there. I have all the paint removed, and now we're ready to apply our lubrication. The lubrication we'll be using is Slip 2000's Extreme Weapons Lube, and this stuff works amazing in a variety of temperatures from really cold to super hot. It is our lubrication of choice. If you're looking for a good lube, this stuff is awesome. And I like to apply it in a needle oiler because it allows me to get the lubrication exactly where I want, especially like in the lower receiver group. It just works out really handy. I also have a quick tip on how to keep your needle oiler safe in your range bag. Make sure you check that out, and I'll put a description below. I start with the charging handle, and I'll just take a good healthy amount of lubrication and apply it to the top and to the sides. You can smear that around with your finger, and then we don't need to worry about the charging handle anymore, so we can put that back in our upper receiver and set that aside. Then I will apply lubrication to the bolt carrier group. And it doesn't really matter where you start, but I like to apply it to the bearing surfaces first. So I apply it, and I apply, and I just kind of rotate around, get both sides. And if you're ever worried about lubrication, it's better to err on the side of a little extra than not enough. And there's another lubrication video out there done by Larry Vickers that he actually purposely over-lubes the AR, and it still runs just fine. So if you're interested in that, make sure you check that out as well. Compress the bolt so you can see those gas rings, and I'll put a big drop in each one of those and let that kind of go in there. Make sure you get the cam pin engagement area and track, and again, lubricate right there. I extend the bolt out, lubricate the shaft of the bolt, and then a small drop on each one of the lugs, just like that. Once the carrier is properly lubricated, we can put the carrier into the upper receiver group and set that aside. Ready to lubricate the lower receiver. And I'm just going to put one drop on each side of those springs so I get the pivot pins. And if you're a little sloppy with where exactly you put that drop, that's okay. That oil will work down in there. The biggest thing is as these pivot, we want to make sure that gets lubrication. And then it's kind of tough to see on camera, so we'll probably do a cutaway, is you'll see this shiny engagement surface on the hammer, where you'll see the hammer where that moves, and where it engages the trigger, and a good drop right there. Just like that. That is all the lubrication it needs. Places we want to avoid lubrication is the buffer and spring. We don't need to lubricate there, especially if you store your rifle upright. All the lubrication and oil is eventually going to make its down, way there anyway, so we don't need to add lube to that to make mud, and it works better if it's just clean and dry. The other thing we want to talk about is grease. I am absolutely opposed to grease in the AR, and I know I'm going to get some flack for this, but I can't tell you how many guns I have seen come through the bench that do not run and are packed full of wheel bearing grease, lithium grease, whatever. Basically what the grease does, especially on a direct impingement gun, is it mixes with all that burnt powder, that carbon, that fouling, and it makes a sticky, abrasive paste. And eventually it just makes gun not work. Additionally, I've also seen a bunch of grease packed in on the buffer, and it basically seized that up so where it was cycling really, really slow. I have a picture of that I'll show you as well. So that's all the lubrication I use, and I use a good quality lubricant. When you're done, you can go ahead, reassemble the two halves, do your function checks as needed, and you're all set. That's how to properly lubricate the AR-15. And again, on a piston gun, the only areas we're gonna put a little extra lube on is the drive rod where that comes from the upper receiver, and you can lubricate the piston components as well. But as we showed you, the carrier is pretty much the same, and we're gonna lube those same spots. If you have any questions, comments, we would love to interact and hear from you. If you have any video requests, please leave it in the comment section below or like us on Facebook. If you've liked what you've seen, please like, share, and subscribe, and check out the rest of the channel. We have quick tips, we have episodes, we have all sorts of stuff going on that is helpful to the firearms community. Thank you very much for watching. Whenever you shoot, make sure you shoot safe, and have a great day.